The Soviet Union officially denied today that it's behind the tanker toll in the Persian Gulf. In a series of speeches at the Presidium, the Soviets accused the United States of upsetting the balance in the region by what it called America's incursion into Saudi Arabia. Analysts here see the reference as the offer of a trade. Get your forces out of Saudi Arabia and Oman will lift the toll. This is Barbara.
Just outside the Strait of Hormuz, giant tankers wait to load on oil for Japan and for our Western allies. However, the Omani toll has effectively stopped all traffic, and the consensus of world energy experts is that this impasse has to come to an end.
The Associated Press reports that American warplanes fought a pre-dawn battle over Saudi Arabia with unidentified fighter planes. One U.S. AWACS reconnaissance aircraft was shot down and fell into the Persian Gulf. The fate of the crew is not known. F-18 fighters attached to the United States Central Command Force in Saudi Arabia engaged the 5 intruding aircraft after their approach was reported by the reconnaissance plane, which was then shot down. 2 of the attacking planes, believed to be from either Iran or Kuwait, were hit and apparently destroyed. The apparent target of the attack was the oil refinery at Ras Tanura, where fires were started.
My caution to the administration would be that they ought to proceed very slowly before either committing the military power they have in the area or in any way escalating the confrontation, especially with the Russians in that area.
Well, do you think that we should just sit still for this Omani blockade and try to deal with it diplomatically before we make any kind of military response, particularly to that?
I think that we have to go very slowly on this matter. The Russians have a kind of, I suppose you say, a chip on their shoulders, or I would think a disposition to retaliate, since we interfered with their ships on the high seas at the time of the so-called Cuban Missile Crisis. That was the beginning, I think, of the buildup of the Russian Navy.
Are you predicting that there may be a naval response to this blockade in the
Well,
Straits?
I think it would have to come from the Navy. It's a question of what kind of naval response we get. If it were limited to surface ships without aircraft, I think it might quite easily be contained. If we go beyond that to the use of aircraft off carriers, then I think serious trouble could develop very quickly.
There are now 21 tankers waiting to enter the Strait of Hormuz, 9 more than yesterday. One tanker captain has threatened to ignore the toll and just sail his ship through the blockade. The Omanis have responded with patrol boats armed with 20mm cannons. And the question tonight, will the Omanis fire on such an unarmed vessel? And will the United States have to implement a naval action to clear the blockade? Whatever the answers, they'll have to be accomplished quickly as the oil reserves for some of our allies begin to shrink. American warships are steaming tonight towards a possible showdown at the entrance to the Persian Gulf. This action was announced in a statement issued only moments ago by Presidential Press Secretary James Otis.
The United States naval carrier Nimitz and an attendant battle group of cruisers, frigates, and submarines have been ordered to proceed to the Persian Gulf. The group will make certain that American merchant vessels are not hindered in their use of international sea lanes.
The heart of this task force is the U.S. naval carrier Nimitz and her complement of warplanes. The carrier is surrounded by a protective screen of 8 frigates and cruisers, and as further security, an unknown number of hunter-killer submarines will sweep the seas ahead of the task force. Most of the ships and planes of this formidable task force are equipped with nuclear weapons, cruise missiles, torpedoes, depth charges, mostly low kiloton yield, but still much larger than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Well, our stated intention is to create a strong presence in the area in the hopes that the sea lanes will be opened without the use of force. That has not always worked for the U.S., and the Soviets know it. Whether they respond militarily and to what degree is uncertain, but they've got to feel threatened.
With this awesome array of technology lined up on both sides in the Gulf, where does that leave us, Eric?
In something of a no man's land. We hope both sides are talking to each other. We assume they're being very, very careful. We hope neither side misreads a signal, misunderstands an intention, or perceives this rattling of sabers as an act of aggression. But here we are, going eyeball to eyeball on the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to take some very fancy footwork for both sides to get up and walk away from this.
Shit. What's the matter?
But there's a story you gotta get out. A satellite photograph crossed my desk tonight, the border between Russia and Iran. 2 days ago, the whole area was jamming with activity. I mean, trucks, tanks, mobile rocket launchers all around Ashgabat. Tonight, the new photos, everything's gone. Zero. Everybody's out of there. Dory, it could be a signal.
From the Russians?
Yes. Maybe they're saying, pull back. We did.
Well, the president, has he seen this picture?
Everybody's seen it all up and down the line. What does that mean? Does that mean they think it's important? I don't know. I don't think they have time to think anymore.
The President of the United States.
My decision is to make it absolutely clear to those who would impose unreasonable and crippling restrictions on vital commerce that such restrictions are unacceptable. To make a decision which would send a signal that is one whit less clear, less determined, would be to abdicate America's responsibilities to the free world. To give substance to this decision, I have ordered the Navy to take whatever steps are necessary to ensure that the Persian Gulf is open to shipping. Furthermore, I have instructed the Selective Service Board to induct into the armed services all registrants who have reached their 20th birthday.
Shit, that's my son.
We seek no test of arms. Our commitment to peace is matched only by our resolve that no nation, great or small, may hold other nations hostage to its greed for wealth or power. God bless you, and good night.
Is this satellite photograph that was taken yesterday. This is the border between the Soviet Union and Iran. In this picture taken 2 days ago, the objects indicated are military vehicles and weapons on the Russian side of the border. In this photo taken last night and just released to CVN News, there is no visual evidence of any military activity whatsoever. The border is clear. Why? Is Moscow signaling to Washington, we've pulled back, now you do the same?
Soviet submarines are believed to be headed tonight towards the Persian Gulf in a possible confrontation with American warships.
There goes an F-18 Hornet off the deck of the Nimitz. Many of this great ship's planes are already in the air searching for a flotilla of Russian submarines. The subs, believed to be of the Typhoon class, the Soviet Navy's largest, were spotted last Tuesday off the Strait of Malacca, far from their home base in Vietnam. Their assumed destination, the troubled waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Planes have been shuttling on and off the deck of the Nimitz since well before our arrival this morning in hopes of locating the submarines. It is thought that the Russian subs are nuclear-powered and are armed with torpedoes that can use either conventional or nuclear warheads. Meanwhile, this giant carrier and its protective shield of escort vessels steam north at top cruising speed toward the Persian Gulf. At this speed, the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz is less than 2 days away. This is Michael Boyle for CVN News aboard the aircraft carrier Nimitz.
Gordon Scott in London now has a report on the latest Soviet response.
Units of the Russian home fleet sailed out of the Black Sea and into the Aegean today. Admiralty sources in London speculated that the ships would reinforce Russian vessels already in the Mediterranean, possibly with a view to keeping the Americans' Sixth Fleet from the Persian Gulf.
35 years of Cold War threatening to turn hot is failing, at least so far, to bring Americans closer together. If anything, the divisions, the fractures in the body politic grew wider today. While young men lined up at induction centers, other citizens protested.
If the crowd outside this induction center is any indication, there'll be no lack of military manpower to respond to the fast-moving events in the Middle East. How happy they are to be here is yet another question. As always, it depends on who you ask.
I'll do what I have to do, that's all. It's not like patriotism or anything. It's more like a job.
You enlisted? Why?
I don't want to see us get pushed around anymore. We haven't won a war since 1945. I think we got a real chance of winning this one. I want to be part of it.
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution